Last night, the Montreal Canadiens defeated the New Jersey Devils in a shootout. That was where Ilya Kovalchuk came to play and did the whole thing while going by the fans. And it's very, very funny because that is in New Jersey, his former team. It was crazy. Absolutely crazy, the storyline that was being crafted out of that game. But this video is not about that. While the Canadiens have a break between their game yesterday and their game tomorrow, which will be against the Anaheim Ducks, let's talk about one piece that we've kind of avoided actually talking about super in-depth when it comes to trade rumors. Because the way the Canadiens are right now, we've discussed this on the channel before, they're out of a playoff spot. But they're not super far out of a playoff spot. They're not out of playoff contention just yet, but they're not in the dance at the moment. They're still in the front of the line waiting to get in. So when it comes to talking about who they can trade, who is on their roster currently, you got a big list of names, and a lot of these names have had their own videos. But Tomas Tatar is a guy who I actually haven't covered individually just yet. And for some reason, it's taken this long, but I at least held it off this long just so we could get a really good source coming in for the material that's used to create this video. Let's talk about Elliotte Friedman's 31 thoughts that just came out about 3 hours ago. Because if you scroll all the way down to thought number 7, yeah, it's quite early on in the article, we get a pretty good glimpse as to Tomas Tatar discussion right here. This is what Elliotte Friedman has to say. I think the Oilers have, at the very least, looked into Tomas Tatar. Pittsburgh would be another team with interest. Ken Holland knows Tatar very well. Again, though, Montreal feels injuries derailed its season and wants to be competitive in 2020-2021. So you've really got to move the needle to get the Canadiens' attention. So there you have it. It's Edmonton and it's Pittsburgh, each interested, or at least foreseeably interested, in Tomas Tatar, the Montreal Canadiens' highest-scoring goal scorer, the Montreal Canadiens' highest-scoring assist playmaker, the Montreal Canadiens' highest point producer in general. Tatar this year has 50 points, 20 goals, 30 assists in 55 games. It's a very nice, even stat line that he has, and it's actually kind of crazy, because Tomas Tatar is on pace to eclipsing his Montreal Canadiens point totals last year, wherein he got 25 goals, 33 assists for 58 total points. Does he eclipse his total goal record of 29 that he scored back with the Red Wings in 2015? I don't know. The numbers suggest that he has a very slim shot, but I don't know. One thing's for sure, though, is that Tomas Tatar's assist high was set last year with 33 assists. He will get more than 33 assists this year. He's already at 30. He's upped his playmaking ability, and the Canadiens are very happy to see that. As a result, though, because the Canadiens are in this weird spot where they're a bubble limbo team, they're in a position where some people say they could deal, some people say they could buy. Teams are going to be interested in this player, especially with a cap hit that is currently $4.8 million. Now, he is actually on a $5.3 million cap hit, but Vegas retained $500,000 when they traded him to Montreal. So Tatar has one more year after this one at $4.8 million. Who knows, if a team goes after him and uses the 2020-2021 season with Tatar at a $4.8 million cap hit, then they have some good things if he's able to keep up his pace. Tatar is 29 years old, he's arguably in the prime of his career. He's not really going to get any better, but at the same time, his upward progression has indeed been notable from 2 years ago to last year. Now, where does that leave the Canadiens? Because as Elliotte Friedman did say, it's going to take a lot to move Tatar. The Habs are in a position where they believe their season was derailed by injuries, and I would have to agree. You look at the time lost between guys like Drouin, guys like Gallagher, guys like Armia, guys like Kotkaniemi. You take a look at all the time that these guys have missed, and you say to yourself, if all of these players were healthy, if Jonathan Drouin played more than 19 games in this season, would the Canadiens have found a way to win the games that they were close to winning but eventually lost? Would the Canadiens have maybe 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8 extra points in the standings? I don't want to imply that Jonathan Drouin being healthy and staying with the team automatically means that the Habs will win 5 extra games. No, that's not what I'm saying. But you take a look at the entire body of Montreal Canadiens injuries this season, and you say if that body wasn't there, could the Canadiens be in a playoff spot? Not in the playoff hunt like they are right now, but in a spot. And you can make an argument that the answer is yes. So for the Canadiens to think about it like, yeah, we want to come back next season competitive, we want to actually make the playoffs then I could totally see why trading Tatar is a big no-no. But at the same time, you have 2 teams in Edmonton and Pittsburgh that seem like they're interested. When it comes to young assets, when it comes to picks, that's when I say, yeah, you can add some stuff from the Oilers for sure. When it comes to assets that you can use in your team today, that's where you're like, yeah, I could probably take some stuff from Pittsburgh. But again, if these teams want to contend too, then the return is really important too. Edmonton's in a weird spot where they're really interested in contending, and I think everybody kind of knows that. And as a result, you have your players on Edmonton who are really good, your Draisaitl's, your McDavids, your Yamamoto's now, and it doesn't really look like they're going to have anything that the Canadiens would want that they would be willing to give up themselves. Hey, maybe take a page out of this gameplay and trade for a Kailer Yamamoto. Doesn't that sound great now, doesn't it? But that's probably not going to be on the Oilers' reservoir of tradable assets. Nor are any of the other players that are on their team right now that the Canadiens would actually be interested in. Edmonton's going to have to throw in some big sweeteners to get Montreal to pry away from Tatar. Sweeteners like big prospects. Not big as in like physically big, but big as in star power big. I talked about this with the Maple Leafs video, with Kapanen and all that stuff. I mentioned guys like Broberg and Bouchard, and people called me crazy. But even guys further away from that, like, I don't know, a Raphael Lavoie. That sounds like a very appealing player for the Montreal Canadiens and their fans, right? But there would definitely need to be a roster player coming back too. I don't want to just say a prospect gets it done. Same for the Pittsburgh side of things. Their depth is insane, and we all know that. But adding a guy like Tatar would just make them absolutely crazy on paper. And heck, maybe it doesn't work out like Tanner Pearson did, because he didn't really work out with Pittsburgh. Maybe something like that happens with Tatar, but I don't know, man. Tatar has been really good this year, and having him go to any other team, I can see him actually doing really well. So unless Pittsburgh is willing to part with any of their prospects too, I don't see it getting done. Because none of these teams are going to be able to trade a roster player who is as of, if not better than, Tatar to Montreal in a 1-for-1 trade. It doesn't work like that. And if you're trying to get Montreal to trade Tatar in the first place, it's going to be really difficult to get a deal done where Montreal trades both Tatar and another asset because you're giving them a better player back. It doesn't really work out that way if you're the one asking for Tatar. That doesn't work. So, overall, I don't see anything happening, if I'm gonna be honest. I see Tatar staying with the Canadiens, coming back next year and actually being really good again, and I see the Canadiens being better next year because Suzuki's gonna have another year under his belt. Kotkaniemi's gonna come back, hopefully be better from his AHL stint. Drouin's probably not gonna be injured. I see Domi coming back too, and this team actually being better than they were this year. So Edmonton and Pittsburgh, you guys can discuss amongst yourselves what you would want to trade, but I don't think there's anything that they would be willing to part with that Montreal would accept as a viable return for Tomas freaking Tatar, because the guy is a part of one of the best trades the Canadiens have made in a few years, where they traded away their captain, they got Suzuki and this player back, and a pick that they eventually traded to use for Matthias Norlinder, who also looks to be really great as well. Hope you enjoyed this video. So that's host 99. I'm gonna go back to clearing all the phlegm in my throat. And bye.